Okay. Salute, salute, salute. All right, man. So, um, I watched this video the other day, and I forget the name of this dude channel. I kind of apologize because I want to give dude a proper salute. Even though he was on the Terrence Bud Crawford side of the fence, which is cool. But he was saying, everybody always talking about Errol Spence does or did all the heavy lifting, and Terrence Bud Crawford, they take his whole resume, his record, and they dismiss it. And he said, talking about Errol Spence only got 3 belts. 3 belts. Look at what Terrence Bud Crawford has done in the past. In unifying 140, he's had 6 belts to Errol Spence's 3 belts. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of paraphrasing how he put it. And I heard other people say this too. Like, people just want to say Errol Spence did all this heavy lifting. What heavy lifting? Everybody he defeated have already been defeated. On the other hand, Terrence Bud Crawford was beating undefeated champions, moving up in weight classes, being undisputed, moved up another weight class, and got a belt and knocked everybody else out since then. Why isn't his accolades being brought to the negotiation tables, making it 50-50? We see people saying Errol Spence doing the heavy lifting, and Terrence Bud Crawford is trying to come in and do like a clean sweep and swoop all the belts up in one shot. Now, when it comes to Terrence Bud Crawford in negotiations with this fight, whether it be 50-50, 60-40, 55-45, and all that, I'll be honest with you, I really don't care about all of that shit. I'm not going to act like I understand. That shit is above my pay grade when you're talking about contract negotiations. You see, I'm at my gig right now. I've been working in this mug for 18 years. I'm working in this motherfucker for 18 years. And it's a union gig. We do the negotiations for contract every 3 years. Every 3 years, they don't sit back and look at everything I done over the last 18 years and say, okay, let me give you this big ass raise because of that shit. When you go into these contract negotiations, and this is a multi-billion-dollar company, and when they do the negotiations, they bring in these million-dollar paid lawyers, and then our union reps be these retired blue-collar type of guys that hit a couple of books to try to understand the business. And they go in there pretty much outnumbered and outgunned with a whole bunch of gripes and complaints about, we need this, we need that, a bunch of shit. Like when you got your boots on the ground, you know what I'm saying? All the little complaints that you hear guys like us complain about, this need to be fixed for us, this need to be fixed. And it usually come down to, look, man, we need a little bit more money, a little bit more 401k, dental this, chiropractic this, you know what I'm saying, vision, insurance, all this shit, all these little details of negotiation. But I know one thing, they might look at what happened in the last 3 years, how far we come, what they gave us, what benefits they took away, what benefits they gave, what word play they changed just a little bit to change the nuance of a word or the meaning of a word, or try to change a word to change disciplinary actions, or just little shit that'll say, one word that might have 3 different meanings that can be left up into interpretation. Let's try to tighten that word up to make it be more specific. You know what I'm saying? They don't look at what didn't happen over the last decade. Those when you're looking at negotiations for a big business, for millions and damn near $1 billion, these mugs look, they lawyered up, suited up, waking up early in the morning, going into a cold conference room with some coffee, and these mugs is opening up the books and they're looking at numbers. All they looking at, and the only thing that makes sense to them is numbers. They don't care about what Terrence Bud Crawford did. That stuff plays into it because it's going to help with promotion. Him getting the Hall of Fame, him getting his hand casted, him being the undisputed at 140, him being the pound for pound champion, all of that stuff is going to be factored into the equation. Because, yeah, you got to take all that under consideration. I don't say you can take away and diminish anything Terrence Bud Crawford has done. And I'm not saying what he's done is any less or more than what Errol Spence has done. As far as boxing, him being undisputed, of course, Errol Spence is trying to become undisputed. When you're talking about moving up to the welterweight and having this big showdown fight for all the marbles on the top of the mountain, who you are and what you've done is going to be a part of the conversation, of course, but it's not going to be the main focus. The main focus is going to be the numbers. That's it. That's all they going to sit there and hash out the details of how they going to divvy up this money and who going to bring what to the table, how they going to slice up the pie, and who going to get the lion's share and who's going to get this. Everybody is trying to get their hands on it. It's all about like everybody getting paid. Everybody, from the boxers all the way down to security, all the way down to the cotton candy man, all the way down to the peanut man outside, the parking, the everything, the pay-per-view, everybody just trying to eat. You know what I'm saying? So all they doing is sitting there. They some number crunching motherfuckers, and they gonna sit down there and break down the mathematics and make it make sense. Called negotiations. That's it. I don't know. It's above my pay grade. I know. But I know when I look at Bud as a fighter and who he's fought, and then I look at Errol Spence and who he's fought, all I'm saying is I think, even though it's not no big significant difference, as I always said, Errol Spence's resume wasn't just so impressive. Beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter lost to Kell Brook and Keith one-time Thurman, ever so slightly or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't dominated, but he was beat by Kell Brook. He was beat by Keith Thurman. He beat Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson had been knocked out previously. He beat Kell Brook. Kell Brook had his eye socket broke by Triple G. He beat Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia had already lost to Sean Porter and to Keith Thurman. You know what I'm saying? He beat Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia was moving up in weight classes. Of course, he was a smaller dude, even though he was undefeated and beat Adrian Broner. You know what I'm saying? And then he beat Udenis Ugas. Udenis Ugas had been beaten about 4 times, even though he was in a close fight with Sean Porter, who most people say he won, and even though he had just came off a victory against Manny Pacquiao. But I'm not saying that his opponents just been like, oh, he did all the heavy lifting. He wouldn't beat Canelo. He beat Tyson Fury. Then he wouldn't beat Deontay Wilder. He doing all this extreme heavy lifting. And he coming back and wanting to fight this little Terrence Bud Crawford. No, his heavy lifting is trying to, don't take that and make it so literal. Don't you blowing up the word too much. Yeah, he did more heavy lifting, but it's just like this. It makes it change a little bit. Still a kind of a 50-50 fight, but if you're gonna look at it as far as who's doing a bigger pay-per-view and who got the, selling out, who had the Dallas stadium, whoever bringing the most money to the equation, it's kind of obvious that that's Errol Spence. You know what I'm saying? You look at Bud Crawford when Bob Arum is basically saying, man, he ain't promoting himself. He ain't doing what I need him to do. I lost so much money on him and all that shit, this, that, and the third. You know all this stuff we done heard. You know what I'm saying? But it's obvious that Terrence Bud Crawford was struggling to really make himself a cash cow. That don't take away from his skills. But when we look at the people that he fought, we can see they just a little bit less than what Errol Spence was fighting. When he fought Kell Brook had been beaten twice and broken both his eye sockets and had to, you know what I'm saying, got all fat. He was fat as fuck, and he went up to fight a few weight classes, and he tried to weight cut all the way back down. He looked weight drained. He didn't look great. He didn't look terrible, but his punch resistance was diminished, and Teddy Atlas was calling the man a ghost ship before the fight. A fucking ghost ship. You know what I'm saying? Sean Porter was halfway training. He had issues with his daddy. He was retired halfway. He was friendly. He was best friends. He was my buddy and me. He was patting him on his back in the middle of the fight. He was walking back to the corner before the bell went off. His heart wasn't in it. He wasn't passionate about the fight. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't visceral. He wasn't determined. He just wanted to go in there and put up a friendly scrimmage, you know what I'm saying, exhibition type of a fight. And that's what happened. And that's just what it is. Amir Khan been knocked out how many times? He knocked out cold. And he quit after a low blow. I mean, it is what it is. Agitas Kavalauskas is probably one of his dopest fights, and Agitas Kavalauskas is a front runner who just came off of a draw victory. A draw. I can't even call it. He came off of a draw with Ray Robinson, and we know Ray Robinson had beat Terrence Bud Crawford in the amateurs. It is what it is. He beat Agitas Kavalauskas. You know what I'm saying? And nobody knows who Agitas Kavalauskas again. And then when he seen him fight again against the Ortiz kid pretty much dispatched him in the same fashion as Bud did. Jose Benavidez was putting hands on Terrence Bud Crawford, and he had one leg. Talking about Ugas was a stationary target for Errol Spence. If anybody would have had a stationary target and had a heavy bag in front of him, it was Terrence Bud Crawford with Jose Benavidez. That was a heavy bag right in front of him. He had no mobility. He had no defense. He stood there in front of Terrence Bud Crawford with his hands down majority of the fight. Terrence Bud Crawford went into his tool bag and hit him with everything, including the kitchen sink, and still took him to the very last minute of the 12th round to get him out of there. It is what it is. That's what he fought. I'll watch this little clip. You know how you get them little shorts, little quick videos? I'll watch this little quick video from Joe Rogan podcast. He was talking about these lions they done found on some little peninsula or some little island. And he's like, the female lions are like triple the size of a normal lion because all they eat is these big ass water buffalo. And it's just the genetics of, you know what I'm saying, evolution based off how you